Greetings swingers and welcome to episode 3 of the Electro Swing podcast, brought to you by Electro Swing Thing and hosted by myself, Offbeat. This week I'm thrilled to be joined by none other than Electro Swing icon and close personal friend of mine, Odd Chap. In this episode we dive into his journey as a New Zealand-based artist working in a predominantly European scene. We explore his recent album entitled Collaborations, uncover some of his lesser-known musical projects which you may not know about, and of course, much, much more. So sit back and enjoy this week's episode of the Electro Swing podcast with Odd Chap. Welcome to the podcast, mate. Thank you very much for being on.
Of course, mate. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. In honour of it being you, I'm going to call this episode the Oddcast.
Sick. Okay, yeah. We can roll with that.
So, for anyone who doesn't already know you and your music, can you explain a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what your music is about?
I'm Sam. I also go by the name Odd Chap. I'm a Kiwi New Zealander producer. One of the... I was going to say only one, but I know there's a couple of other electro swing producers in New Zealand. It's quite quiet over this side of the world. Yeah, I predominantly make electro swing music. I'm more on the kind of electro side of things. Just love it sick. It's too much fun. Yeah, it's just addictive and just like... I think the thing about electro swing is it's danceable kind of aspect to it. It's vintage sound. It's quite unique. It's very niche, and that's kind of like the big appeal. And I love sampling as well, like taking something and then flipping it on its head, adding your own personal twist. That's kind of a real draw to this genre as well.
How did you first get into electro swing?
Gonna have to roll the clock back to 2015, I think. Yeah, somehow got onto, I feel like, everybody else's gateway drug to electro swing, Parov or Caravan Palace. Mine was Parov, then shortly followed by Caravan Palace. Yeah, early 2015. I don't know how I distinctly remember listening to the Paris Swingbox EP by Parov. And I don't know how I got onto that, maybe like a YouTube recommendation or something. And then just being absolutely hooked on that EP. I just thought it was the coolest sounding like music that I was listening to at the time. It just had everything going for it, like classic Parov sound, real hard hitting electro with the sampling and just like the old vintage sound. I was just like, this is so sick. Why haven't I heard of this ever? So obviously once you get into Parov, you discover the rest of his discography. And then you learn about all sorts of other kind of electro swing artists. Shortly got into Caravan Palace's first 2 albums after that. Just immersed in the sound even more. It was like my mind was being blown by the electro swing sound that I'd previously just not really heard of in my life. And then that was amazing. And then I think the one that kind of pushed me to make electro swing was LLT. They're a French group. I don't want to attempt to pronounce their name because I'll just butcher it every single time. But I have collaborated with them.
Is that Le Temps?
Yeah.
Or Le Temps?
Yeah.
Maybe pronounced. I also don't want to butcher it, but
yeah, my French
give
is
it a try.
So bad, but
yeah.
Yeah, I heard. Have you heard the track Looking Like This? It's like electro swing with swing hop. Like the chorus has a fat bass line to it, which is right up our alley. And he was rapping over the top of it, and it's just like all the different kind of things you wouldn't necessarily associate with electro swing that were merging onto this one track. And from there I was like, okay, sweet, done deal. I'm gonna start making electro swing. If they can like add all these different like bass heavy elements and rapping and all this other shenanigans to electro swing, I'm gonna do that as well. So that's how I got onto electro swing sound and got my start.
And so you were already making music at that point?
Yeah.
What was your stage name when you first started making electro swing?
Also,
because it wasn't Odd Chap, was it?
It wasn't Odd Chap. It was Gardu Odd, which I think is like loosely translated to Odd Station, or like because like Gardu Nord. Yeah, I think I was also learning French at the time. Forgotten most of it now, and so I had like an epiphany. All the good artists that I was listening to were French, so I was like, right. Obviously, the next thing to do is learn French, and then somehow my music will improve, and I'll make absolute bangers from here on out. So
were you learning French to complement your music?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, it's a great sounding language as well. But yeah, I just came up with a list on my phone of all these different artists I was listening to, like Daft Punk, Caravan Palace, Madeon. And I was like, why are they all French? Like, is my
Yeah.
music taste like really French? Or I don't even know what was going on. So I was like, right, I'm going to start learning French. And then,
Cool. And then adopted a French moniker as well.
yeah, true.
Why did you stop calling yourself that?
Oh, because I was worried people were going to start speaking to me in French. I wasn't going to understand a word what they were going to say.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. I was like, no, I kind of shot myself in the foot here. So yeah. I switched the name after maybe like 4 months of using that to Odd Chap.
Mm-hmm.
Used to make music with my cousin under the Odd Chaps. And when he went into photography, I kind of just like dropped the name, but then I picked it back up and just did Odd Chap instead. It's got a nice ring to it.
So you were making music obviously before you started doing Electro Swing.
Mm.
What did that look like or sound like?
Absolutely terrible. No, I think I started around early 2009. Downloaded FL Studio, which is software for making music, and just played around with that. Got really addicted to that. And I was just making at the time like dubstep and drum and bass and electro, which kind of served me well for later making Electro Swing. Yeah, was making that for the next few years, mostly. A few chilled beats here and there. Right before I started making Electro Swing, I was predominantly just making drum and bass. And then, made the change to Electro Swing.
So a good like 5 or 6 years of producing before you started doing
Electro Swing. Definitely. Like 2009 till 2015. And then 2015, the Electro Swing kind of Odd Chap channel started on YouTube and went from there.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned a little bit earlier that you're one of, if not the only, New Zealand Electro Swing artist. How do you feel that has affected you both career-wise and musically in terms of influence?
I feel like if you'd asked me this question in like the 90s, my answer would be drastically different. But of course, we're on the internet and there's Spotify and everybody just gets to listen to whatever they want. So there's no real barriers just being this side of the world and creating Electro Swing. I mean, it would be absolutely fantastic to just be like, oh, cool, there's an Electro Swing night that's happening. All the local resident DJs are hitting out. Go to that gig and kind of network with people and play a few shows and whatnot. But at the same time, I don't know, I just kind of always do my own thing, really. So I get to listen to all the amazing music that's going on the opposite ends of the world and get inspired by that and take it into my own music and just roll with it. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's only a bad thing if you want to do shows, but in terms of just making music, no obstacles whatsoever.
Okay, cool. And what about like in terms of influences? Do you feel that you're exposed to different influences being there? Like are there sort of local New Zealand musicians that you've been inspired by in any way? Or do you feel again it's sort of because of like the internet and globalization and stuff, we're all exposed to the same sort of thing?
Yeah, we're definitely exposed to anybody's music at any point in time in our lives. So I don't think, that's not a big obstacle or anything at all. If any, it's such a positive, really. It's not a negative at all, because like old school days, you would just go to like local record store, pour over records or CDs, and then find influence that way. You can literally just tap into the world's catalog of music. Be like, what do I want to listen to today? Oh, some Electro Swing artist in the middle of Norway has uploaded some track. Cool, I'm going to listen to that. Otherwise, it would have been so difficult or near impossible to do that a few years ago. So it's really just open up the doors and listen to whatever as well. It doesn't have to be Electro Swing. You can take influence and inspiration from different other artists, and I think that's just a really good thing to have.
You're very well known for collaborating with lots of different artists. What are your thoughts on that? How do you feel that has impacted your career as well?
Yeah, so I think maybe when I was first getting started, it was a bit daunting. I didn't really have kind of a fan base, or being just so early in the scene, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes or like ask about, do you want to do a potential collab? And just kind of build up my own signature sound and establish myself. But now with like a few more years under my belt with Odd Chap name and whatnot, it's such a joy working with other people, just to share the excitement, the creative process. Well, just from the start, being like bouncing ideas off each other, getting lyrics and melodies and all sorts back to you, and then building up a track from there. And then once the track's done, you get to the mastering stage and you both are like anxiously waiting for the master to come in and be like, oh, wonder what it's going to sound like. This is going to be our final product that we push to the world. And then like counting down to the release date, getting all excited about that, and the release day actually happening, you get to share in all that excitement with other people and that's the joy of collaborations, I think. Doing that by yourself, it's good because you have like a lot of creative freedom to like pull your own strings and like do exactly what you want to do. But at the same time, it just to share the excitement and the whole process with other people, just it takes it to a new level. And that's why I love doing collaborations at the moment as well, because I feel like I've got so many originals by myself and it's just me. It's cool to branch out and bring other people on board and share their ideas and just build something together in a way. So plenty more collaborations in the future. I'm not stopping that anytime soon.
So appropriately, your album was entitled Collaborations. Can you tell us a little bit about that for anyone that's not heard it?
Absolutely. So Collaborations was 2 to 3 years in the making. This was around the time, when did we first get started making that? It was like 2021 or 22. Yeah, I had the super ambitious idea with Freshly Squeezed. I was like, you reckon we could do an album, 10 songs, each song being completely different from the next and just having a different vocalist? And they're going to be all killer, no filler, as they say. So, yeah, it was a bit of a mission to make that happen, but it just ultimately turned out so good. And did what I set out to kind of achieve. So, the album in total is 10 tracks, technically 11 with the bonus track, filled with different collaborations, people who I've never done music before. All singles released as well. It wasn't just like, by the time we got to the release date of the actual album, there was only one single left. And so that was kind of the single for the album. And yeah, just to spread the joy of working with other people over 2 to 3 years and have an album to show at the end of it. And then it got pressed to vinyl as well. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing album with some amazing features.
Sure.
What do you have any particular standout tracks from it? I know that they're probably all like your favorites, but do you have any in particular that you have really, really fond feelings towards or memories of?
That's like a parent asking, what's your favorite child, isn't it?
And that's what I'm asking, so answer the question.
Nah, I'm not spilling the beans. I don't have any personal favorites. Like I said, this is such like a diplomatic PC answer.
I was going to say, what a politician. Yeah.
They're all so unique and individual from each other. It's just, I think like the first track that started all off, the one with Little Violet, because that was like the beginning of the whole project. That will always kind of be a little bit extra special, but that would kind of like be the only like stand out. You can't pick favorites. They're all so different and I love them all. So
okay, so Little Violet is your favorite child.
You're putting words in my mouth now. That's
cool.
That's,
okay. Yeah. Any like particularly interesting stories behind the album or any of the songs? Like, were there any challenges you had to overcome or?
Yeah. So for those who didn't, obviously, like we discussed it early on, me being from New Zealand, just being so far away from like the rest of this swing scene, like UK and Germany, France and US. So this was all done internationally. It was all through like Gmail and Dropbox and just floating ideas and back and forth with each other, which is great because like time zone wise, well, we know this quite well, don't we? Time zone wise, New Zealand and the UK were pretty much 12 hours apart. So when somebody was sleeping, the other person was like working on the track and then vice versa.
It's like shift work, isn't it? Between UK and New Zealand. It's great. Yeah.
But at the same time, if you want like an answer to a question, you're going to have to wait for them to wake up. So it's kind of like, I think the challenges was conflicting schedules as well. Because it's just ultimately like, you have to arrange it with your collaborations, with label, with yourself. Sometimes life gets in the way. I think that was the biggest challenge because we're meant to like do it over a year, like a single each month, and then like do it consistently 10 months in a row, drop the album, boom, done. And then it just takes a little bit longer, like 2 to 3 years. But it's what happens with music and anything creative in life in general. I think that was the most difficult part of it. I will say, like heading into this project, I didn't want to approach anybody just like, yo, you want to collaborate towards this album? I wanted to be prepared beforehand, so I built like a massive folder of different demos. I think I got to like 30 something and I just had that on Dropbox. So whenever I approached an artist that I hadn't spoken to before, I was like, this is what I'm working towards. Here's a massive demo folder. If any of these take your fancy, like pop on the track, or if you got ideas from one and you want to like pull apart, maybe you really like this verse from this track and then want to put it on this chorus, and we'll just smash them all together. If you have new ideas, we could start something from scratch. So I really want to like present something rather than just be like, okay, cool, let's get started. I'll start working on something. Like, no, here's 30 different ideas, and then if any of them takes your fancy, then we can go from there. Yeah, I thought from like the vocalist perspective, it'd be nice just to have that presented to you, so you kind of have a rough idea, and it kind of showcases like diverse demos and stuff that I was working on as well, which is cool.
I guess especially for people who haven't worked with you before, like they've obviously probably listened to your music and have an idea of what you're about, but like if they don't know what working with you is like, they may not know how accommodating and patient you can be when it comes to
I'm glad you think so.
Well, definitely, mate, because a lot of producers aren't, you know, like I've worked with people who it's like they give you something, and then if you don't like it or you want to make a change, there's a real feeling of like and there's like a tension and a bit of like awkwardness, which you're not like. You're very open to feedback, and some might even say micromanagement in my case. But but if someone hasn't worked with you before and they sort of, there's something about the track they're not that keen on, they might not feel comfortable asking for you to change something or telling you that. So for you to present them with like a folder of options and to say we can really mix and match and take this and do this, then I imagine for people who hadn't worked with you before, that really put them at ease.
Yeah. And I made sure to reiterate that on every single email. I was like, I'm totally open-minded. Whatever you want to do, if you don't like this, if you don't like that, or you've got ideas, then it's good to have feedback anyway, because you can't be stuck in your own little bubble and just be like, no, this is what... I mean, if you got a vision and ideas and you want to stick to it, then I guess that's okay. But like at the same time, you just got to be open-minded with music. A good example of one of our songs, when we were working on P&P, one of the demos I sent you, I was like pacing around my room. I was like, this is the absolute bomb diggity. I'm so chuffed with that. I sent it to you and you're like, nah, not really quite what I'm feeling. I was just like, oh, okay. But then we worked on like the next one. I don't even remember that. Yeah. Yeah, because I didn't tell you. I can tell you now because we're on a podcast. And then the next demo we worked on, which ended up being the final result, like 10 times better than the one I was jazzed up. So sometimes it's good to hear that feedback because it might not be like the better track. So yeah. So
collaborations, when did that come out? That's 2024, right?
Yeah, last year, March the 1st.
And it's on Freshly Squeezed?
It is on Freshly Squeezed. They're very accommodating. Yeah. It's on green vinyl as well, which I have.
Oh, show us.
I was hoping you'd ask me. Oh,
just so happen to have it next to him. No, it's very beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah. I've just got, like 10 different copies scattered across the house. Bathroom, kitchen, if, it just comes up in conversation like, oh, this is... But yeah.
Just conveniently have one to hand. Yeah, let's see it.
I've given away most of my copies, all family members. Oosh.
Wow, look at that. What a beauty.
That is the one. Very chuffed with that.
Yeah. Very cool, man.
It was always a dream of mine first getting into Electro Swing because, like, obviously that vintage sound and whatnot would be great to have it on vinyl. And then that came to reality towards September or October last year. Yeah,
cool, man. So, and are there any... Big up Freshly Squeezed indeed. Are there any vinyl copies left if people want to get one, can they?
Yeah, there's the best place to get it is oddchap.bandcamp.com. If you look up the Collaborations album, it should be there. Yeah, we still got copies there for sure. And I think a few select UK record stores have them as well.
Okay, so in addition to your solo Odd Chap stuff, you've also got a number of other projects on the go, right?
Yep. Are we gonna dive into that? I've got too many projects on the go. Oh my days.
Okay, well, there's two in particular that I can think of. So one is Odd Loft. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yep. Odd Loft is my chill beats project that I started with one of my good friends, and yeah, we saw like, because with Odd Chap stuff in particular, like diving back into early YouTube days, I've always made my music, or most of the music that I can control, copyright free for YouTubers and Twitch streamers. And yes, you don't make as much money as potentially just monetizing that on YouTube, but you get the potential exposure in return. And it's just great because I feel like from a creator perspective, if you make a video, you get to use that track for free. You can monetize your video still. You just have to like credit the artist in the description, which is cool. So there's heaps of like pros to that. So with Odd Loft, we saw like a gap of like doing the copyright free, but with lo-fi beats, so people can just run it in the background of like their Twitch streams, or if they want to use it on YouTube and whatnot, it's just like an easy kind of music library to access. So me and my mate started doing that. I went under the name Odd Loft. He went under the name Snapdragon, and then from there we just built up a massive kind of one track every fortnight. I think we aimed. Built up a humongous playlist on Spotify, and now I think there's just like hundreds of lo-fi songs, and they're each just like chilled out. You just chuck it on in the background. That kind of feel good, just relaxed music, and it's great to make. I enjoy making it so much because I feel like another project which you're going to talk about is kind of like the harder hitting EDM genres, the dance and swing stuff of Electro Swing for Odd Chap, and now I got the chill beats for like Odd Loft. So it's like a perfect kind of like putting like what's the expression, fingers in all the pies or something like that.
Yeah,
for music genres in particular. So yeah, it's just super relaxing as well. I typically do it like right before I go to bed.
Cool. Okay, so that's Odd Loft. Because I feel like a lot of people listening to this will know nothing about that, and there'll be a lot of
I don't
Odd Chap
typically
fans.
push it as much either. It was just a separate thing from Odd Chap. I've mentioned it a couple of times, and maybe like a few Q&As, but I wouldn't like actively push it because it's just so different. But it is at the bottom of my Spotify anyway. I think I've left a link to it there.
So that's Odd Loft, and then you've got another project as well, right? Which you alluded to just now, being harder hitting EDM based stuff.
Yeah.
What's
Yep, that is Antidote Audio, right? Yeah.
What's your thing, mate?
I've actually got 10 different other secret projects, so I just want to make sure I was spilling the beans on the right one.
Antidote, of course.
Yes, that good friend that I was mentioning before started Antidote Audio, which is a sample pack company. And for those who don't know what like sample packs are, in the whole music world, as a music producer, you want to download different sounds to get like inspiration and to drag into your own sessions and then build tracks upon that. So it could just be like drum sounds, it could be like bass sounds, synths, different like one-shot samples here and there. So that kind of, that scratches that itch with the whole heavy EDM side, like drum and bass, dubstep, trap, where I create sample packs for that, and I also do tutorials as well for music producers. And in between Odd Chap, Odd Loft, and Antidote Audio, that's what takes up my time. Quite a lot, and it's hard. It's a bit of a juggling act sometimes.
Yeah, which is one of my questions, man, is how do you juggle all of
that? You don't really. You just know.
One plate is always falling.
I'm getting better at it, 100%. Like, there was just maybe like 2017 to 2021 was all work, no life balance. And now I've got a good balance for sure. But it just means I had to say no to a few other opportunities and things that pop up, whether it be like producing roles or other roles and stuff like that. So it is hard saying no because I just want to jump on absolutely everything. But in order to get that kind of work-life balance, then especially juggling 3 different things, because the lo-fi stuff doesn't take up that much time, but it's constantly on my mind as well. And if you don't feed into that, then it's not going to do well. So, and I love doing all 3 at the moment, and I don't want to drop one. So it's just like, what do I do? And I try to find a good balance of doing all 3 and like split my week up into kind of like focusing and make sure all those 3 get their own time that's needed. So,
okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And going back to Antidote Audio, so it's sample packs, but it's predominantly like EDM and like heavier bass genres, right?
Yeah, because I create the sounds for that, so it's fairly mostly synthesized based, so a lot of sound design knowledge goes into that. And you just tackle like whatever genre is popping off at the moment and what you feel inspired by, and then just dive in 6 to 8 months of creating sounds for that, build up this massive kind of sample library. Ends up being like, well, the one I'm working on at the moment is drum and bass, and I'm like 90% of the way done with that. I'm in the process of like trimming up all the sounds, naming them, and I think I got something like 700 sounds, and I started in July last year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a massive kind of effort, work, and then I'll get artwork done on that, and then I'll push it out to everybody, and then start the new sample pack, and then the cycle goes on and on and on. So,
will you ever do an Electro Swing sample pack?
Eventually, I have thought about that before, and if I would do it, the whole kind of samples, like getting stuff from the 30s or 40s, and then that dives into AI again, whether you can just like get that to write for you and then just kind of trim samples from that. It's just like, if I wanted to do it, I think I'd do it. I'd hire a whole bunch of session musicians, just jam it out for like a week straight, record constantly, and then over maybe like the next 3 months following that. Would take all those sounds, make my own twist to them, remix them, take the sessions, like stem them out properly. And I think if I were to do an Electro Swing sample pack, it would be that. But that would be insanely expensive, 100%. It would be a great library for me to use, 100%, but the time and the energy put into that. Maybe one day. It would be on my horizon.
To be fair, that actually links very nicely to my next section, because I want to talk about the electro swing scene as a whole.
Oh, okay.
And I feel that's the sort of thing that probably would have been more popular, I don't know, 5 years ago. Well,
I'd
even
say 10
longer
years
ago
ago.
than that, maybe 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking sort of like, 2015, around that sort of time. So obviously you said picking genres that are popping off. If it sounds like it's more of like a commercial venture, Antidote Audio, like you're doing stuff you enjoy and you're partly doing it for the love, but you're also strategically picking genres that people are going to want to buy samples from. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm guessing there's probably less demand for electro swing now than there would have been 10 years ago.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that the other day, like the amount of new electro swing artists that are coming into the scene. And I feel like we may have, I don't want to use the word stagnated, but like may have plateaued a bit with like new people entering the scene. So I don't think there would be like a massive demand for an electro swing pack, but it would just be a great thing to have as a music producer in your life.
I would love you to make that, please.
Yeah.
And then you can use it for tracks that we make together, and then also I can give it to everyone else that I work with. Because it is difficult it is difficult to find authentic swing sounds, like you say.
Yeah.
So
I get asked that all the time. Whenever I do like a Q&A, like I've done 3 on my YouTube channel at like 7K, 14K, 21K, kind of increments there. But and so many times I get like, where do you get your samples from? Where do you get your sounds from? I'm just like, it's very difficult, but there is ways to do it, 100%.
I want to talk more about the electro swing scene as a whole.
Cool.
What are your thoughts on it now in 2025? State of electro swing.
The state of electro swing. See, this is where being in New Zealand is a bit hard, because like you're not going to the live side of it. All I can spectate on is just like what I'm seeing through YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and those kind of releases. I mean, there's still tracks that are just like, you listen to them and just get immediately inspired. I don't think we've run aground with the sound of it. Like I was saying before, I don't hear too many like new electro swing artists that are coming up at the moment. But in saying that, our community as a whole has got to be one of the nicest kind of music communities. Absolute, just like everybody who you chat to, whether it be like vocalists, anybody in like record labels, any dancers in the scene, like it extends out to that, any DJs, it's just all such a friendly, welcoming group. And you can just tell everybody's in it for the music. There's no like weird hierarchy. No, there is a little bit of competitive edge, if I'm honest. You got to be a little bit competitive when you're an artist. If you listen to
that's human nature though, man, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a good thing to have. The amount of times in the past few years somebody drops something and just like, I need to up my game now.
Yeah, that's good though. Healthy competition.
Yeah, exactly.
But the fans as well, I think, are very loyal, very passionate. I think it is a very nice scene.
Yeah, it's a great scene to be a part of, for sure.
But I agree, it's definitely not as. I mean, I don't think it's as commercially popular as it was around 2015. That was kind of the peak, as Wolfgang said in his interview. That was sort of like the peak era of electro swing, and obviously we are like 10 years away from that now. Yeah. So things have reduced a little bit, but the scene itself is still strong. It's just less mainstream now.
Yeah, we definitely need to grow as a scene, that's for sure. But it's nice having a small community at the same time. Music comes in cycles anyway, so we'll have a resurgence of electro swing in like a few years. Do you feel like we had a little bit of a resurgence early 2020? Like 100 years of electro swing? I know you kind of...
I don't know. It's weird because when you go through something in real time, you don't necessarily notice it's happening. So like looking back, I can see that 2015 and around, 2013 to 2016 was like the kind of peak era for me in hindsight.
That's because we both just got started at that time though?
Nah, I think that's when it was the most popular. That's when there were loads of events on. That's when it was appearing in like TV ads and stuff. That's when the bigger artists were like headlining festivals and stuff. And I do feel that it has dipped since then in popularity. And also just like, so my kind of like gauge of how mainstream and popular something is when you start seeing it in like supermarkets, and
Okay.
the whole like funny moustache, top hats, Gatsby thing was big then, and like everyone was having like 1920s Art Deco weddings, like and all the wedding invites were all Art Deco designed, and you could get like bags of like little funny moustaches and monocles and stuff in Tesco's.
Yeah.
And if I think about it now, that feels quite dated, and like I don't know many people who would have like a electro swing 1920s Art Deco Gatsby / steampunk themed wedding, which was all the rage back then. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is like I didn't really notice when it stopped being as popular, but when you have a bit of distance from it, you can see that in hindsight.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, you said like, did it have a bit of a resurgence in 2020? I probably wasn't aware that it wasn't at its height still at that point. Whereas like, if I look back now, I'm like, yeah, it definitely wasn't as popular then. But I don't think it got any more popular then either.
Maybe
I think
had
a lot
a little
of people,
blip.
maybe. I mean, a lot of people released songs about it being the 20s again, myself included. But I don't think it had the same resurgence everyone was hoping for. I think a lot of people, you know, there were those memes, weren't there, where people were like, for the 20s, I want it to go back to the roaring 20s jazz age and have everyone dressed up in pinstripe suits and doing the Charleston and stuff like that. I think a lot of electro swing artists were like hoping that would be the case, and it wasn't really. But I also think a lot of things didn't happen in 2020 that people were expecting because there was a little thing going on in the world that was distracting people.
Yeah, maybe would have had that massive resurgence if that didn't get in the way around kind of like March, April. Who knows? But yeah, I feel like music is cycles anyway, because 30s to 40s swing gets created. 20s, 30s, 40s swing's created. 80s New Jack Swing, kind of the 80s influence on swing music. Gatsby around the 90s. Electro Swing to early 2010s. So it's just a matter of time before the next swing infused thing. I'm not too sure if it would be Electro Swing, but it might be the next progression. So time will tell.
We're going to move on to the quick fire round now. So these are just questions that, as the name suggests, I would like you to answer quickly and not think about too much.
Okay, sounds good.
So off the top of your head, what is the thing that you are most proud of in your career, either commercially or creatively?
Does it have to be one thing?
Yes. No, it doesn't. But start with one, and then
okay. People are going to say I'm biased, but that whole kind of time period of your album. So like from, well, kind of us working together, and then was it crowdfunder or Indiegogo?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Both.
And then
I did too.
You coming to New Zealand to work on that, and then finishing that off over the next year, then eventually releasing that and going Boomtown. I think that kind of period in time, that is something I'm really proud of.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. That's nice. But just so people don't think I've paid you to say that on the podcast. What else?
Cracking 1 million streams was always a massive goal of mine. I have a really close friend who in 2013, 2014, this was me just like leaving high school, his music took off and he hit 1 million streams, and I'll never forget like standing next to him being like, oh my god, it's like royalty standing next to him. It's like, oh, he's famous now. I really want to hit 1 mil. So I've got the screenshot and everything on my computer when Spotify for artists and it ticks up to 1 million streams in total. I'm just like, yes! That was but I mean, it's not all about the numbers anyway.
It's a nice achievement, though. When was that?
I don't even know. I'd have to look at the screenshot. I think it was like 2017 or 2018.
Cool.
Yeah. What was the question again? Most like proud achievements and stuff like that.
Yeah, like, and I say commercially or creatively as well.
That was a touching moment getting that finished and then releasing that on green vinyl as well. That definitely blew my mind.
That's probably one of them.
Yeah. Performing at Boomtown as well, that was sensational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and getting to actually experience the scene firsthand rather than just being from New Zealand, and then realizing Power of Stella came to a festival and you realize 2 months too late, and so that
oh man,
that was a nice feeling.
So yeah, it is the quick fire round. So
sorry.
So 3 answers is definitely enough. What's the biggest challenge that you faced, would you say?
Riding the very fine line between releasing consistent music and creative block. Because I feel like
Nice.
as an artist, with everybody's attention spans just being absolutely cooked, you want to stay in front of people's minds, and it's just great to release. As soon as I finish music, I'm just like, I want to get it out there. It's just, I can't wait for people to hear it. I'm ready to like jump onto the next thing. And so you want to do that. And my aim kind of last year and this year is to release music consistently. So I'll be doing like once a month or every 5 weeks. And that's good for like the Spotify algorithm, for the YouTube algorithm as well, because that kind of completes its cycle, runs its course, and then it's on to the next thing. And that's how you like build your growth as an artist. But at the same time, you do not want to force creativity and just being like, oh no, I've got a deadline of like, I need to get this track out in the next month. So force myself to create. And then you're not really kind of doing it for the joy of it. You're doing it because you have to do it. And so music's meant to be fun at the end of the day and creative. So yeah, I think finding the balance between consistency and actually wanting to make the music is a hard line.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Try not to compare yourself to others, as hard as that may be. There was a period of time where every new song I'd make, I'd just listen to another song by like a really good artist, play mine back to back, and just be like, this is not the best. So it can be such an easy thing to do, but try not to get into your own head with that. Everybody's music journey is different. Everybody's sound is different. What your signature sound is what makes you such a good artist. So you don't want to sound like your artist idols. You want to sound like you, even though that's a hard thing to do.
If you could collaborate with any artist, alive or dead, who would it be?
The funny thing is, when I first started making Electro Swing, I had in my bio, Power of Stella, Caravan Palace, Jamie Berry, if you're reading this, can we please collaborate? So I had that for a good like 5 years at least, and then I changed it to something a little bit more professional, but they would be my top three. Outside of Electro Swing would be like producers like Rob Swire. He's the main dude from one of the main dudes from Pendulum, and vocalists as well. Like Rag and Bone Man would definitely be up there for me. Teddy Swims would be up there for me. I know they're kind of more like bluesy sound, but I definitely write like a bluesy track for them.
Yeah, and I could definitely imagine a Rag and Bone Odd Chap collab. That sounds sick.
Yeah, there we go hard.
Yeah,
I'll just be like, yo, we're gonna make the new James Bond theme. That's our inspiration for it.
Yeah. If you weren't making Electro Swing, what genre do you think you would be making?
Drum and bass, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kiwis love drum and bass. I've always had a soft spot for it. I think it was one of the early like EDM genres I ever got into, like 2008, 9, 10. It was drum and bass, and hearing that I was just like, oh, this is sick. Yeah, fast tempo drum and bass. So much kind of different options you can go with it. It's just,
yeah.
Love it.
Can we expect to hear more like swing and bass from you then, if it's such a passion?
Yeah, I did one track fairly recently. I think 2025 could definitely see a little Odd Chap drum and bass jingle.
Nice.
Yeah.
So taking it a little bit more personal now, what is something outside of Electro Swing that people would be surprised to learn about you as a person?
Well, I live in Queenstown in New Zealand, and we go 4, technically 5 ski mountains within like an hour and a bit of each other. So winter's here, just snowboarding. I was gonna say every day, but not really. But just making the most of that, heading up to the ski mountain, spending a few hours up there snowboarding, come back down, work on tunes. That's a lifestyle.
That is a pretty sweet life, man. So we're going to start wrapping things up now. So any final words for fans of your music, anyone who's listening?
Absolutely. Big love to each and every single one of you. I don't take this for granted. I am very, very appreciative of every second spent listening to my music. I do it for me and just people vibing to the music. I get so many nice comments and messages. And especially, Spotify Wrapped recently, like end of last year. So many nice comments and like screenshots of like Odd Chap is your 0.001% listener, or like that's like percent fan to them. And I was just like, oh my god. And then the minutes spent listening to my music, I was just like mind blown. So I'm very appreciative. So thank you.
Final question, shameless plugs. Is there anything that you would like to promote coming up?
Just broadly, if you want this on green vinyl, oddchap.bandcamp.com. Otherwise, you can find me on Spotify, YouTube. I think Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram is where I'm most active. So, and if you just want to get in touch or whatever, shoot me a message there.
Wicked. All right, well, thank you, Odd Chap, very much for coming on the podcast, or the Oddcast, as we're calling this episode.
Oddcast, nice.
Really appreciate you coming to join. And obviously, you and I have worked together extensively. So I really appreciate everything you've done for me, helping bring my tunes to life, and everything you've done for the scene, man, because you've worked with a lot of people. You have moved things forward and you continue to do so. So on behalf of everyone, thank you for your music.
Thank you.
So that was episode 3 of the Electro Swing podcast with myself, Offbeat, and my good friend, longtime collaborator and wonderful guest, Odd Chap. If you haven't already, make sure you check out his music and his other 2 projects, Odd Loft and Antidote Audio, links in description. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time with my next guest, but in the meantime, drop a comment and let me know who else you'd like to see me interview. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you soon.